Good morning. I just want to get on here to do a quick update for you. Let me get my stream shared real quick and let's talk about kind of where we're at. Got some interesting things kind of happening behind the scenes, and I want you guys to be aware of because all the work that you guys are putting in behind the scenes are making a difference. And so that's where I want you guys to know that all the stuff that you're doing is working out, and it's paying off, and we just got to make sure that we just keep up this fight, and so now is not the time to take a break. Now is the time to, you know, hammer down. Okay. So let's talk about what that means. And let me share this real quick. We'll get going and we are going to talk about this. And I think some really important things to note is the pressure that we're putting on, Kropf is working. Okay. And I'm getting, comments from reps that are on the floor right now with him. He's pacing back and forth. He's a mess. He knows he made a mistake yesterday. And so we have to capitalize on that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to keep up that pressure. And obviously on the Facebook group, we've been, sending him emails all morning and saying that we're just, dissatisfied with the way things went yesterday. We're calling him out. There's some things that I've done on my end that have really made it uncomfortable for him. And I can actually talk about these ideas now. It's all public record now. And so I'll let you guys kind of hop in here. If you guys can hear this, see this, let me know. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Absolutely. And that's the way we should let him know that. And so I think that's a really great comment here. And I think that's just desperation on their part. They know that the will of the people is not with them. And I think it's desperation, to be honest with you. So that's why we have to continue to move forward. Okay. We've got to work together, and that's how we stop this stuff. And so, my morning started out this morning. I filed what's called a Rule 27 complaint with the Legislative Equity Office. It's a conduct complaint due to the way he treated Rep Tran yesterday in my presence. And obviously, I was in defending her, and I provided all the supporting evidence. Like I have both video clips, I had a written statement, and I submitted this Rule 27 violation to the Oregon Legislature. From then, I also emailed him, and I was very specific that he had better get back to me. This is what I'm intending to do, right? I'm putting actions behind my words. And then what I did there is I expected a response from him. And so he did respond to that. He said that he forwarded my complaint, because I sent him the complaint too. I wanted in his face to let him know that, yes, I am paying attention. I'm not going to go away. I'm going to continue to fight. And so, you know, it might be futile, but I did my part. And so he responded to that. I responded and said, do the right thing and let this thing die. You got out of your committee, do the right thing, let it die. Okay, that's what I said. And at that point, we poured on the emails, and that's when people from the Facebook group started sending emails, and we're blowing up the inbox, and it's this pressure. And so now I'm getting text messages from the House floor where he's pacing back and forth. He's getting it on both ends, right? He's getting it from the House Majority Leader, which is Julie Fahey. And she's getting, he's getting it both ends. Getting it from us, like he's a man without a country at this point. And so, that's where we have to keep up this pressure. And what he did yesterday was not the way things are supposed to be done. He was caught on camera, and now we're documenting it. Now we're sending it out to news agencies and all the alike. And so that's how we're going to win this stuff, is we're going to keep up this pressure and make sure that he knows that, we're not giving up, and we're not going to allow him to take that victory away from us and then, ram down more restrictions down our throat. It's not going to happen. And so, that's where we all have to work together. So my, kind of my call to action here is is we got to hammer. We're going to hammer that. Now is the time for the hammer and the nail. Okay. So I'll put the email address here. I want to run up his inbox. I want his staffers, obviously be respectful to his staffers. They're nice. But I want them to have to deal with the fallout of his actions. Okay. His actions were, it was a 4-3. He called a recess, and then he took that victory from us yesterday by bullying one of the no votes. Okay. So, that's where I want to hammer is he could not beat us legitimately. So he moved the goalpost. Okay. That's not how a representative democracy is supposed to work. Okay. So that's the one thing that these guys don't understand up there is they always talk about democracy, democracy, democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. Okay. So that means we elect people, our peers, to go into that building to do the work on our behalf. Okay. So they work for us. Okay. And they've forgotten that. And so now it's time for us to make them remember that. Okay. So we're going to send emails. We're going to make sure they know that they do work for us. And this is not the way they do the work for us by, basically changing the goal right as, literally he was the next vote. He would have, like, it was 4-3. We have it on video. 4-3. His vote was next, and he called he called timeout, took her outside, and brow bashed her for about 13 minutes. Came back in, she's in tears and visibly distraught, and then all of a sudden calls a new vote, and she votes. I could say begrudgingly with him. I don't think she was in favor of what happened yesterday. I think that she was just twisted, and I feel bad for her. I have empathy for her, and that's why I stood for her today, and I submitted a complaint. He's actually, one thing that's interesting to note about him is he's actually on the conduct committee. Okay, so isn't this a bold move there, Cotton? Is he's actually on the conduct committee, so he's the co-chair of that. And so what I did is I emailed so I submitted my Rule 27 complaint with the LEO, which is a Legislative Equity Office, which is what I'm supposed to do. And then what I did is I took that same complaint, I emailed the entire body of that committee, which unfortunately Rep Tran was on that committee, but it's in her behalf. And I told them that I hope that they hold him accountable, and I hope there's a strong alpha member in those committees that can hold him accountable for his actions. And that's my goal there. And I think that, I've already got responses for a couple reps up there. They really appreciated my input and my, following the procedure and doing what I did. And now I have reps telling me that on the floor that he's a wreck. And so we just got to keep that pressure up. Okay. He's not going to break us. We're going to break him. Okay. So that's the goal here with this call to action. And so, I recommend is if you haven't already sent an email, I'll put the information in this video so you guys can send an email. Just tell him that you do not appreciate the way he betrayed your vote yesterday, right? He betrayed the process yesterday. He was going to lose, and he was not happy with that. And so he took his ball and went home, and then came back, changed the rules, and then we lost. Okay. So I'm a little salty about it. And so I made him kind of pay. And so, that's something that we're still working on. And there's some good comments in here. I'm going to get to those. So if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know. And so the next step for this House Bill 4145 is it's got to go to the floor of the House. I've been in contact with a couple of senators, reps up there today, saying that it should have gone to Ways and Means. Okay. The fact that it didn't go to Ways and Means, because now there's an $8 million fiscal attached to this, they don't have the money. And so another thing that he's doing is he's trying to circumvent Ways and Means the way it's supposed to go. And so, that's another thing that really makes this thing unpopular. So that's kind of where I'm at. I like this comment right here. This is what these people don't understand is in their infinite wisdom and of greed. They are setting themselves up for failure. And what I mean by that is we have IP 28, which is the anti-hunting bill. We have Senate Bill 1599, which is the gas tax, and then we have this one, right? For 4145. Okay, those three are a huge motivator for all of us to show up in November to vote every one of them out of office. Okay, or at least get a new governor. Okay, and so that's what these people are so arrogant that they don't want to admit that what they're doing is actually going to cost them in the long run. And they've got their blinders on, they're in their echo chambers. They're not seeing us as Oregonians. They're not seeing how motivated, how angry, and so that's what we're doing to move this thing forward. And so I really think that, we got to work together to make sure we show up and vote when it's time, and we're gonna do our part, and we're gonna make a change. I swear this is really gonna be the perfect storm for us if we do what we need to do. And it starts by doing it right now. Okay, do it right now. So the people that are actively engaged in this fight right now, you're sending your emails, you're calling your reps, you're calling your senators, you are practicing democracy, right? You're a citizen activist advocate, right? And you're doing this work. And so, my hat's off to you, and I'm really thankful to have you in this fight with me. And I feel that, the sky's the limit. If we just keep up this pressure, because we're in kind of an unprecedented, uncharted territory for a lot of us, right? We're not used to maybe things going our way. And to be honest with you, it would have gone our way yesterday if he wouldn't have changed the rules. And so, this is kind of where we're at. And so I got one right here. This is what I'm trying to figure out. There's a couple things that I'm working on behind the scenes. Obviously, I'm trying to get the media involved. We have like 15 different media outlets that we're trying to get to cover this story, because we feel it's a big story. We feel the fact that we have all the documentation proving, what we're saying was truthful and really happened, and it was, something that there's got to be some accountability there. If there's a rumor saying that this is kind of his reputation, is this is the way he treats, women in the Oregon Legislature. So there should be accountability for there. If this truly is his conduct and he's on the conduct committee, he should probably be excused from that committee, right? And so that's part of us bringing light to this. We want to take some of the power away from him. Like if he's the co-chair or the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, and this is the way he runs that committee, uh, that's not really good, because, that's not good for all of us, because it's, we elect these people to go up into that office on our behalf. And if we got them to see the light here on House Bill 4145, and then they switch because of him turning her arm, like that's nullifying all of our voices, right? And so I think this is really a big thing for us, and we just got to keep hammering. And I think that's why we got to hammer his email. Use his resources against him. Make sure that he has to, and put in there in your emails that you expect a response. Say, I expect a response to this email. Make him respond. Put him on where he has to explain why he behaved the way he did. And that's what I did today. I said, hey, I expect a response, and I'm going to keep escalating until I get that response. And luckily he responded, because I got other stuff that I want to do. And so it works. It works. And so we're just going to keep doing that. And so this one right here. No, no. So here's the thing. So the vote, so that's where there's confusion here, and that's what he did. So the vote was still open. Okay, it isn't until that final roll call is done and they gavel it, it's still open, right? So we still had an open vote. It was 4-3. He would have been the tying vote, so it would have been 4-4. If it ties, it dies. Okay. So there would have been no more 41-45 this session. It would have gone away. Okay. So the fact that he didn't gavel, he's the one with the gavel. Okay. He's also the one with the whip. The whip is where he can, whip his people into shape. And that's what he did. And it was really unfortunate for all of us, and especially for her. So that's kind of where I'm at there is It wasn't official until it's actually gavelled and then they have the roll call recorded, which you see in the second video that I shared, which I don't know if I shared. I might not have shared it into the Facebook group, but I did on YouTube, where he recalled the vote, and then she kinda stumbles a little bit, and she's like, didn't know what to do, and then she voted yes. So, 100% right here. This is what they're doing. They are falling apart. They know their time is numbered up there in that building because we are all awake, we're paying attention, and we're working together to stop this stuff, okay? So, I think our best bet now is to send emails, um, emails in opposition, right? And obviously, nothing has changed in OLIS, and so, the bill is just kinda hanging out there, and as soon as it changes, then we'll have to figure out, if we can get there in time, to be a part of this. I would love to be in the balcony up there. I would love to have 100 gun owners up there, to really put the pressure. We'll get a courtesy. I guarantee I'll get a courtesy up there with the reps that are on the floor. What they'll do is they'll introduce Oregon gun owners, and it would be pretty huge, and it'd be a big planting of the flag and saying that we're here, we're in the building, and we're not going away. So a lot of it's pageantry, but you have to understand is they're not used to that. They're not used to this pressure. They're used to us, keeping our heads down, going to work, not paying attention, and then screaming and shouting when it's after the fact. They're not used to having us actively engaged like we are right now. So hats off to you guys. You guys are doing tremendous work, and we just got to keep up that pressure. And so that's what I'm here to do. That's my only job is to keep up that pressure. So I'm glad you guys are here. See, that's the one thing that I'm concerned about. I don't know. I gave him the option today, and the only thing that I want to see is I want to see the thing die. Okay, so if he can understand and have some time to self reflect and say that, and maybe that's what we add to our emails is we want this thing to die, right? It got out of your committee, right? That was I think the only thing he was really, because everything up there they're worried about legacy and the votes and how it looks, the optics, and so he wants this to, even this could be the most unpopular bill, but it's his bill, and he doesn't want it to die in his committee. Okay, so he has all this pressure to get it out of his committee. Okay, so now it's out of his committee. He did his part, right? So he appeased the ceasefire Oregon, Moms Demand Action. He did his part, and now if it dies, he can just take a deep breath, like, poof. Now it's not on me, right? So it wasn't my fault that it died. I tried because then he can go back to them and say, hey, I need your funding, I need your help in the election, and so he'll still have supporters there. So that's the way this is gonna work. And so this is a question that I need legal to understand. Like, we're working on all that. I've been talking with Ed Deal. He's been helping with this because he knows the procedures very well. And so I'm hoping that, we can get some reprieve there. And so from what I've seen, this is not legal. Okay. So that's where I'm trying to figure out what it looks like. Okay. So if there, from what I've seen from my limited reading here of this, because I've got all these other things that I'm working on, it's once the vote is open, they cannot recess. Okay. So that's something, obviously, don't quote me on that. That's something I'm still trying to get legal verification, but I believe he cannot do that because we had an open vote. They're in an active vote when it happens. So that's one thing I'm trying to get clarification on. But I think that's why it's important that we keep up this pressure is we don't want them to like 2 days down the road just think that we forgot about this issue, because it's a huge issue for us because this thing's going to continue to move forward. And so, that's where, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, like, I would think that the misconduct would nullify. Um, I think part of it is we didn't have strong members in the committee that could, like, say, "Hey, no, this is the way." Like, we should have had a strong co-chair that said, "No, this is the way it's gonna go. Like, these are the priorities. This is the procedures." That didn't happen, unfortunately. It happens fast. I mean, it was by design. I mean, he knew that this was his only opportunity to change the outcome. He moved really quickly. He kind of mumbled. He stepped away from his microphone. So he did all these things to cover up where he can kind of say, well, I may have said a recess or I might have adjourned it, like he's an attorney. I mean, he's not totally inept, but I feel that it's really, really important that we just keep going. Yeah, 100% right here, dude. Keep pulling the yarn. Like he is in full on desperation mode. And so the pressure is working. I'll put the email address in here. Let's make sure we fire up his inbox. Make him respond to you, and maybe send a short email and say, "I expect a response." Especially if you're in his district. He has to listen to his constituents. Be respectful, but use. We want those numbers, and we want to take away from all the other stuff that they have. So it's all attrition for us. So, hmm, I could. I could. I tried to tag him and I couldn't tag him. I did a post last night that really kind of blew up on me and did really well. There's a lot of people paying attention to that post. And it wouldn't allow me to tag him because I wanted him to see that. And the problem is social media is so inept. I don't think he takes social media very seriously. And typically this when I go through his social media, I just see him in red shirts. And so um that's kind of where I'm at. Can I can I read the question? What question are you? I'm sorry. Like I don't know what I'm referring to. All I'm trying to do is get people kind of engaged in this, make sure we're sending emails to Rep Kropf. I think we just got to keep up the pressure. That's what I'm trying uh, to know. And I feel that that is going to be working hopefully in our favor. And so, I mean, definitely the fight is not over. We have a couple weeks. I think we have until March 8th until Senate sign die. And that's when it's officially over. So we have time. And the people that I've spoken with today tell me that we're in good shape. We're fighting a good fight. And so that's where I think if we just keep moving the way we're moving, we're going to be successful here. And part of it is we just got to make sure that we, keep up that pressure. And so I hope that answered your question. And so, I thanks for being here and your work. I'm just trying to keep everybody in the fight. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, right here. So it's not over. And we've made tremendous gains. And so that's what's really, really important there. So I think just being a part of this is going to be huge, and we just got to equate it to votes in November, right? So we've got to use all this energy and emotion that we're gathering right now, and make sure we show up and vote. Really, really important. So I don't want to take too much more of your time. I've got stuff I still need to do. I'm gonna write a blog post for my website, and hopefully it'll get some attraction or some attention, excuse me. Some of my Measure 114 blog posts got some really big, like I got interviewed by the Washington Post because of a blog post that I wrote. So it's just really, really important that I get this out there and people see it and they know what's happening. And so that's going to be my focus is I'm going to basically write a blog post about Jason Kropf and tie it everything to him. So every time you Google Jason Kropf, this blog post is going to come up and it's going to just make him look really bad. That's what I'm trying to do is I don't want him to be able to outrun this vote that he just did. So that's where I'm at. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. And I think that, we just got to keep up that pressure. And once I know more in Olis, like if there's any change, if we get to the House floor, we'll make sure that we do a big call to action so we get as many people there as we can. And hopefully it'll be enough. So I appreciate you guys tuning. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your belief in me. Appreciate the thank yous, all the support that I've gotten from this. And it's just another day. We're going to keep going. So thank you for being a part of it. And then I'll put the email in there, send him an email, blow up his email inbox, and we're hopefully going to pull it off. So that's where I'm at. So thank you guys. Have a good day, and we will talk to you soon.